Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Coal Country Podcast, where we discuss everything WVU sports. I'm your host, Ian McIntyre. Joining me, as always, we got Tyler Cobb and Matt Howell. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I'm happy to be here. How are you guys?
I'm chilling. Good Thursday night when we're recording.
Lovely jubbly.
It may not be that way for the Mountaineers on Saturday, and that's the main reason. That's the main reason we're here. We're here to talk about the Utah game. Of course, big weekend for WVU in general. Hall of Fame inductees and the throwback uniforms coming out this Saturday.
I got to say, I saw a very convincing edit from Craig Edits. Shout out, Craig. Saying that college game day was going to be at this game. That's obviously not true, but that would be very, very funny. He had a fantastic graphic he made. He had the PRT. It was sitting on railroad tracks. I mean, it was awesome.
All right, boys, let's go ahead and dive into this game. So before we do, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment on the video, all that good stuff. Turn your notifications on, like the video. Follow Instagram, follow X, and don't forget about our Spotify, guys. All right, let's jump into it. So obviously, WVU is not favored in this game. I think everybody going in would know that they would not be favored. I'm not sure what the line is, but I'm guessing it's double digits.
Minus 12.5.
So basically the same as it was for Kansas, except we're at home, which is worse.
Pretty much.
So one interesting thing for WVU, we're not going to have Nico Markiel. He is listed as out for this game. So the big question is who's going to start at quarterback?
I'm going Henderson. I think, up to this point, we saw Henderson first after Nico in RMU. We saw Henderson first after Nico in Ohio. The Pitt game, I think Scotty went in after Nico instead of Henderson. But then back to Kansas, again, Henderson was the first person to go in after Nico went out. So I'm going Henderson, which if you follow us on Twitter, you will know that I think Henderson deserved a shot regardless of if Nico was healthy or not, simply because you could tell on the drive in the fourth quarter, I believe it was, after the game had kind of gotten out of hand, that simply Henderson's running ability was opening up the offense. Even if it wasn't much, it was at least a little. And so I'm going to go with Henderson to start over Khalil or Scotty. I don't know the Max Brown situation still. We're still yet to see him, so I'm not even going to throw his name out there, although I still do want to see him on the field. But I'm going to go Henderson. And I like our chances to do something more on offense with Henderson in than what we've seen out of Nico thus far.
Yeah, I'm exactly with you there. I will say that Utah has a much better defense. They've shown that in their games this season than anybody else we've come up against so far. So as much as we might be making gains offensively, I think it'll still be a struggle to score.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have 100% confidence in this offense at all so far this year, and even with Nico on the field. As we've talked about before, it's not pretty to watch. It hasn't been pretty so far. The only flash of brilliant offense we've gotten was at the end of that Pitt game, and I don't even want to consider Robert Morris for obvious reasons, but there's potential there. I think Rich Rod's system can work. And like we said after the Kansas game, I think Henderson is your guy to be able to run the system the best way. As for now, well, guys are still trying to get accustomed to running it. I think Henderson's your best option to start the game this week against Utah. Although, like you said, Tyler, Khalil Wilkins could come in. And who knows, we could see Scotty Fox again. Do I think we should see Scotty Fox? No. But it wouldn't surprise me, especially if it's another one of those Kansas-type games, right? So nothing is off the table at quarterback, but I think Henderson's your guy.
I'm hoping that I don't know where else you go outside of him and Cam Vaughn at this point, because you need offense, and you need offense bad, and then everybody else is injured. Nico is obviously injured. I said that even if he wasn't, I still wanted to see Henderson, but Jaheim's out, Jaden Bray's out, Ty Edwards is questionable. Preston Fox is, I think, listed as probable, but still nonetheless injured. You need offense somewhere, and Henderson's legs give you some offense. I know everybody is still concerned about his throwing abilities. He's only completed 4 for 11 passes thus far, but for the most part, the balls have been catchable. If you he's probably gone 7 or 8 for 11 in terms of catchable balls, and they were either just dropped or the wide receiver didn't make an effort to catch the ball. And so I don't see what everybody else is seeing in the fact that he's not as good of a thrower as some think. He hasn't been given the proper opportunity to get into a rhythm and actually try to throw the ball while in a rhythm. So I think if you give him the start this Saturday, give him a drive or two, use his legs on the first couple of drives more than anything else, maybe throw a couple short passes, and then finally open up the pass game and see what Henderson can do on the pass game. That being said, like I said, your weapons outside of Cam Vaughn are not exactly, I don't want to say the greatest, but they are depleted, right? So you don't have Jaheim White. That's been known. He won't come back for the season. But Ty Edwards is also still listed as questionable. So what do you do in terms of the running back situation? Because you had 3 or 4. You had Sincere Bowers, who is doubtful. So you don't have Sincere Bowers. You've got Clay Ash, Dior Hubbard, Tyler Jacklich. And as of right now, Cannon Katzer is supposed to be back from what he has hit the injury he's been dealing with. So you'll have Ash, Hubbard, Jacklich, and Katzer. 3 guys who have struggled, 1 guy who has not yet seen the field. So what do you do at running back if Ty Edwards is not ready to go? I liked what I saw out of Dior Hubbard and Tyler Jacklich when they were on the field. Obviously, Jacklich had that stupid fumble at the end where the defender came from behind and punched it out basically, and Jacklich didn't even see him. But for the most part, I thought Dior Hubbard did a good job when he did have the ball in his hands. He only had 3 carries, but it was for 16 yards, and that's 5.3 yards a carry. So if Edwards is not ready to go, I think Dior Hubbard should see the field more than he has thus far. That's where I think your answer at running back is. Now, Cannon Katzer can come out and blow me away. I believe he was a 1,000-yard rusher, but at an FCS school. And so I believe he was a 1,000-yard rusher, but at an FCS school, so I can't say it right now. But he was talked about during the offseason as somebody that could come in and make a difference in the running back room. And so do you lean on Dior Hubbard and Clay Ash as you have, or do you see some of Katzer as well? Or is Ty Edwards back? If Ty Edwards is back, great. But you got to find something at the running back outside of just Henderson's legs on being able to pull it. Because sooner or later, if you're just pulling the ball every time, the defense is going to know that you're pulling the ball every time and just favor the running back or quarterback, excuse me.
Yeah. I just think you're right in your running back analysis. This could be a hot take because we haven't seen much of it, but I think Clay Ash might have the potential to be a very good receiving back, or at least a check down back, because what it would do is allow him to get some easy yards in a passing situation where Henderson may not have anyone available, and it also gets Henderson in a rhythm getting some completions in, right? And so it could be good for both players, and it wouldn't hurt Clay Ash's confidence with that O-line not being very good and only being able to get 1 or 2 yards per carry. I'm not saying he shouldn't run the ball, because he should. He's a running back. But, getting him some easy check down receptions in the backfield can actually work out for us well, because with our receiving room being as good as they are, Cam Vaughn, Justin Smith-Brown, they're not deep, but they're talented. And I think that if we put Clay Ash in a position to have some screenplays or checkdowns, he could get way more solid yards than he has been getting running the ball.
I agree. I don't see Clay Ash as a bad player, okay? I just don't know if he has shown thus far. And again, I don't want to put it all on Clay Ash because it's very difficult to run behind an O-line that can't properly block. And so I don't want to put it all on Clay Ash, but I don't know if Power 4 football is fit for him either. And so but again, that could be because of the O-line. But outside of, when he has had a couple plays where he was receiving the ball and he runs hard, he gives effort on the field. And so I don't hate that. Maybe you use Clay Ash in more of a receiving back type of role, and then you use Dior Hubbard as your, actual running back that you're handing the ball off to. Again, this is all dependent on whether or not Ty Edwards is back. Right now, he's listed as questionable. If he's back, he's your running back one, and he proved it against Pitt, and that is the fact. So, but if he's not, it is going to be on Clay Ash and Hubbard and maybe Katzer to at least try to establish the run in an offense that has not been able to establish the run ever since Jaheim went down, and outside of Ty Edwards' one really good performance against Pitt.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Ty Edwards is back, it's all systems go, right? You run the same schemes and same plays that we're working against Pitt, and you go from there. But if he's not there, we got to experiment a little bit. Like you said, Clay Ash is talented. Like, we don't know if, D1 is his thing, or we don't know if, like, Power 4 is his thing. But he can play. Given a better O-line, he would be showing more.
I agree.
So, do we experiment? I think so, especially if Henderson comes out and he's not good. Like whenever he actually gets a fair shot at playing an entire half of football and he's not looking much better than Nico did, where do you go? And I think it starts with the running backs.
What is tough is the fact that Utah's defense is extremely good, and so no matter how good Henderson or if it's Clay Ash or Hubbard or Katzer or even Edwards, no matter how good they play, you're going up against an extremely tough Utah defense. Up until that fourth quarter against Texas Tech, it was a close defensive battle, and so even if you can establish, the basic question is, can you find anything on offense at all? If you look at Utah's defense against our offense, it just does not line up well. They are top 30, 40 in the country in just about every category, and we are bottom 30, 40 in the country in just about every category. And this is a team that has already struggled to put points on the board, going up against a team that is able to keep points off the board. And so it's just going to be a really long day for the offense, in my opinion. I don't like our chances to score more than 20 points at home this time. Both games at home have been, 45 and 31, I believe. I don't even know if you reached the 24 mark this week. I think that's I would almost go to argue that your 20 points is the tipping point. If this offense can find a way to get to 20 points, you might be able to find a way to win the game, which kind of turns us over to defense. We can talk more about offense, but we already know about Cam Vaughn. So we know about Grayson Barnes. He needs to be utilized more. We know what Cam Vaughn can do, but he's still been quiet outside of the Robert Morris game where he had 100-plus yards. And so the game is going to come down to, can West Virginia's defense actually stay in the game the whole time? Because up until about 2 minutes left in the half, the game against Kansas was 10-3. It was still a one-possession game. West Virginia couldn't score, but the defense was keeping them in the game to at least put them in a position to win. And so can West Virginia's defense do that again? I want to say that Dampier against Texas Tech did not do – I don't want to say he did bad, but he also didn't do good. Actually, I will say he did pretty bad. He did have 65% completion percentage, but he only had 160-some yards, I believe. He did not have a touchdown. He threw two interceptions. And so is that something you can exploit, right? Dampier was struggling against the Texas Tech defensive line. If we can get pressure, which we have Jamori back now, and this defensive line has been good, can you force Dampier into mistakes? Now, we've struggled against mobile quarterbacks so far, Daniels and Parker Navarro for Ohio. Both kind of ate us up on the ground a little bit, and Dampier is mobile. but he seemed to struggle under pressure a little bit. And so can you force him into some mistakes? I'm telling you right now, to win this game, I think you need to have the defense come away with some form of points, whether that's a pick six, whether that's a scoop and score. You need points from your defense to win this game, in my opinion. And I think where that comes from is, can you force Dampier under pressure to make a bad pass and return it to the house? I think that's what you need to happen. You need some kind of play like that to happen. Maybe swing some momentum. It's at home. We haven't lost at home, but at the same time, we're not putting up very many points. You need some points from your defense, in my opinion, to win this game.
I don't disagree, Matt. You want to go ahead?
Like you said, Dampier had some struggles against Tech last week. Again, I've always been pretty high on our defense so far this year. I am not entirely sure where we would rank ourselves compared to Tech, but probably worse, just based on how much money each program spends on their players so far. Kind of a tangent from this. Did you guys see that Hope Gas is now sponsored on the Coliseum?
Wholly irrelevant to the topic. I'm kidding.
Well, that's definitely going to make a big difference in how athletics can utilize some funding going forward. But it is off topic. Like you said, defensively, we have a lot of strength. Utah kind of had some issues last week, and they were held to just over 100 rushing yards. Passing yards weren't bad either. Their defense is also pretty good. And again, where are we going to end up on offense? It's anybody's guess. So, like you said, a long day for the offense. I think it'll be a much longer day for the defense, because in every game so far, the defense is out on the field a lot longer, and it is just hammering on our defense. So, ideally, we could put a couple of points on the board.
Both teams' defenses are really solid. Utah showed some questionable things against a really good Texas Tech defense, and so it's going to come down to, can either offense find some way to help out their defense at some point in the game. I think both defenses are going to have no problem getting stops. Now, Utah still has some playmakers. Wayshawn Parker has been really solid at running back for Utah on the year. He's got 214 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then they have some wide receivers that have been making plays for them. They're not a huge explosive team. But Ryan Davis, their leading receiver, has 241 yards on the year. And so they have playmakers, but can our defense find a way to stop them? Both teams are top 30 in turnovers and forced turnovers. We have 6 on the year. That's 26th. And they have 7. That's 13th. Can either side take care of the ball more than the other? And can either side force more turnovers than the other? That's why I said I think you need, if you're West Virginia, to find a way to score points on the defensive side of the ball if you're going to win this game. You got to force a pick six or a fumble and find a way to get it to the end zone on the other side.
Dampier was injured, had an ankle injury that was not really talked about or reported. Utah has supposedly clarified what injury reporting actually what those guidelines mean. So in the future, maybe they'll accurately report the status of players, but he should be in better health playing against us than against Tech, which is just another thing that we should consider.
I'm going to say something, you guys can argue with me or whatever, but I think that a key to this game, even though it won't happen, could be to slow the entire game down. Now, we know with Rich Rod that ain't happening, right? Like, his system is to up tempo, get the ball moving as quick as possible, spot the ball, right? That's the system. But I think against Utah, what might work better is moving the ball more slowly, and that is for the main goal of resting your defense up, because you don't want them out on the field for 40 minutes. you want your offense to have possession of the ball for longer. And that could even allow them to sort of make better decisions with time. But I don't think that it's going to happen just because of the way Rich Rod is. So that's, in my opinion, that can make the game more difficult. Not playing it as slow as the defense would like you to play it.
I agree to an extent. I have seen this. I've seen this argument that the defense is doing all the work anyways. Let's at least give them some time to get some rest on the sideline, because you could tell against Kansas that they kind of. I don't want to say they lost desire to try to win the game, but when your offense is going out there every drive and going 3 and out, you kind of start to get a little mad at the offense. Like, what the heck am I going out here taking hits, trying to get a tackle every play and covering my receiver, running downfield, having to run back when our offense is just going to go 3 and out, and then I'm going to get right back on the field. However, if you watch the Tech versus Utah game, the score was a lot further than what the game was. It was 10-3 entering the fourth quarter. Texas Tech scored 24 in the fourth because of how tired Utah's defense was. Now, I don't want to say that was all because of how tired defense was. Will Hammond went in the game and just kind of went off. I mean, I don't know if I would – I'll be honest, I think Will Hammond needs to start for Tech moving forward. That's how impressed I was watching him just in the second half of that game. But the high-speed tempo that West Virginia runs is meant to tire down the opposing side. And with the way the game went against Texas Tech for Utah, they were tired in the fourth quarter. Can you do that again? Can you do just enough throughout the game to stay in the game, and then in the fourth quarter put some points on the board because Utah's defense is gassed? And so I don't hate the position that slowing down the game would help out the defense, but keeping the offensive tempo could also tire out the Utah's defense.
Right. And like you said, Tech won that game going away in the fourth quarter from a tempo offense. So I think it's a question that needs to be asked. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Just because, Utah knew how they lost that game. They knew they were tired and worn out. So how do they scheme for that? Right? That's the question I'm answering. Do they come into this game trying to preserve themselves more and, focus on Rich Rod's up-tempo offense and making sure that they run their schemes to combat fatigue? Or do they go back to the system that worked for 3/4 of the game and play that against us, right? Because both offenses were actually moving pretty slow for most of that game. So it just depends on what kind of scheme Utah brings to the table. But I think, it warranted a mention.
It is a question that needs to be asked, and I wouldn't hate to see it. The problem is Rich Rod's scheme is Rich Rod's scheme, and he's going to live and die by it. So I doubt we'll see that type of change, especially this early in the season. It's still 2-2. Like, there's still room for improvement. I'm not saying we're going to turn the tide around and go win the Big 12, but there are still games to win, and I don't think you change an entire scheme because of not necessarily a scheme, but what the offense is built around, because it just hasn't been working thus far. So I do agree. It's a question that needed to be asked. Just I doubt we'll see it.
Yeah. I think you're right. All right, let's go ahead and hop into our pick'em games for week 5. So, Tyler, go ahead and read out the slate that we got to choose from.
Like last week, we'll start with the Big 12 game of the week. TCU goes to Arizona State. Arizona State coming off a big win against Baylor. TCU coming off a big win against SMU, rival SMU. So what do we got for TCU at Arizona State?
For me, I'm going with the Sun Devils here. They have home field advantage. TCU does look really good, but I think Arizona State also has to prove why they still belong in the top 25. So give me Arizona State.
I like the Sun Devils, but TCU and especially their quarterback Josh Hoover has looked fantastic so far. I'm going to have to go with the Horned Frogs.
I've gone back and forth on this one.
It's hard.
And if you asked me last week, I think I would have taken TCU. However, Arizona State was able to shut down Baylor, and I think they can do the same against TCU. I'm going to rock with Arizona State and say that they pull off another win and end TCU's undefeated streak thus far. Is that correct? TCU has not lost?
I believe so.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. My fault. So we've got what? TCU, Arizona State, and Arizona State?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. TCU, Arizona State, Arizona State.
Next up, USC goes to Illinois. Illinois coming off a thrashing by Indiana, which was probably my worst pick last week. I took Illinois out of Indiana or over Indiana, and then USC coming off a win against Michigan State. Who we got?
So for me, Illinois got thrashed in a way that I think none of us expected. I've never been high on Illinois, and I've never really been high on USC either, but their game against Michigan State, they looked really good. Now, do I think Illinois comes out at home and puts up a fight? Absolutely, but give me USC here. They look really good in their last game offensively.
Yeah, I'm also thinking USC. I wasn't really high on Illinois, just like you were saying, and I think they showed last week that they were extremely overrated. Not to say that they're a bad team by any stretch, but I'll go with USC here.
Notre Dame goes to Arkansas. Notre Dame finally gets a win last week against Purdue, however, allowed Purdue to score a lot of points in 30 for a Purdue team that's not looked very good for the past several years. And Arkansas comes off a crushing comeback win against Memphis. And so two teams that have not had the greatest starts to the year. Who we got?
You aren't going to pick USC, Illinois?
Did I not pick it, or did I just go?
No, you just went straight into
it. My fault. I'm going USC.
Okay.
I won't explain much because I already opened up Notre Dame and Arkansas, but I will go USC. Now Notre Dame, Arkansas. My fault.
All right, I am going to pick Notre Dame here, even though they're on the road. I think Notre Dame's a better team, and Arkansas looks like they're dying. I think the Waltons are sinking their money into a dead pig. So give me Notre Dame.
That's pretty good. And I know Notre Dame's one of your favorite teams. So
I'm
going to go with Notre Dame as well here.
I am going with Notre Dame. They've had some question marks, and they are only 1-2, and for some reason still ranked. But I'm going to go Notre Dame. I don't see them falling to an Arkansas team that just lost to Memphis in the fashion that they did. Next up, we have the number one team in the country and defending national champions, Ohio State, travel to the team that I think is the most underrated in the country, the Washington Huskies. Who do we have?
For me, this is hard. This is just as hard for me as TCU and Arizona State. Ohio State, besides Texas, really hasn't had the chance to prove themselves as of yet. Meanwhile, Washington has looked really good so far. Is Washington underrated? I think they may be, but the championship pedigree of Ohio State is tempting. I'm going to say Ohio State in this game, but it would not surprise me if Washington walked away with the dub.
I got to disagree with you there. I think it's Ohio State, and I would be very surprised if Washington could pull off a win here.
I've been high on Washington all year, and I'm going to stay high on Washington. Give me the Huskies to pull off the upset. I don't think we've seen a crazy upset so far this year, and I don't think people are looking at this one to be the case, and that's why it feels like it will happen. You see Ohio State, you see the number one beside them, and Washington is unranked. Both teams undefeated. It just feels like Ohio State will march into Washington and kind of take it easily. I don't think that's the case. Washington is going to give them a dogfight. Quite literally, they are the Huskies. And either way, it's going to be close. But I'm going to take what my gut is telling me and say that the Huskies find a way to pull off an upset against number 1 Ohio State.
It'd be a good game.
Kind of a bold pick there. LSU travels to Ole Miss. Both teams have their question marks. Both teams have looked pretty solid. Otherwise, who we have?
I have LSU in this game, even though they're on the road at Ole Miss. LSU has been iffy on offense, to say the least, this year, but I think their overall talent, especially on defense, gets them over the hump.
I think I have to disagree with you here as well. I think Ole Miss will take this one. LSU, obviously not a bad team, but they have struggled where I don't think they should have. The games they've played, I think just based on what you've seen those teams go and against other people, you'd look at LSU and expect them to have done more. So I know hindsight 2020, and it's you can't look at how one team does and expect them to do the same week to week. But I just think LSU has not been at the caliber that we've expected of them so far this season. So I think Ole Miss, I'll have to give them the edge here.
I don't know. I think people are doubting LSU simply because of what they've looked like in the games they've had so far. They're one of the few schools that has 2 Power 4 wins on their schedule that at the time looked very impressive, but this far into the season look less so. They obviously beat Clemson on the road. They beat Florida at home, I believe. And at the time, like I said, those looked like solid wins. As time has gone on, Clemson and Florida have looked really rough. And so LSU looks rough in hindsight. But like Ian mentioned, that defensive pedigree that LSU has will be able to hold Ole Miss. Defense, I think, travels. I'm going to go with LSU. Indiana, thrashing Illinois last week, like we mentioned, travels to Iowa. This one seems pretty easy to me, but we'll let you go ahead and take it away.
I mean, I'm going to go Indiana here. I think if you thrash the number 9 team in the country like you did, even at home, gives you such a tremendous confidence boost. Indiana may be better than they were last year. Like, that's a legit conversation that we should be having. And Iowa is good old Iowa, solid defense, not much offense. But I think Indiana overcomes that defense pretty steadily and gets a win on the road.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think Indiana has just shown so far this year that they're going to be a much better team this weekend.
What you said about Indiana being better than last year, I think it's no question. Last year, I felt like you could feel the weak schedule whispers creeping into Indiana's head. They went 11-1 in the regular season, but the only real good team that they faced, they got pretty handedly beat by. And so it felt like they made it there because of the schedule. This year, that Illinois team is still a decent team. Like, I think that Illinois is a top 30, top 40 team in the country in terms of talent. And Indiana just put nearly 70 on them. So I don't think there's any doubt that this Indiana team is better than what they had on the field last year. I'm going to go in another thrashing. Indiana puts Iowa out pretty handedly. Next up, we have Auburn at Texas A&M. Both teams have had their moments. Texas A&M especially beating Notre Dame on the road. Auburn coming off crushing loss to Oklahoma, where most would argue that the refs had a part in that outcome. What do we got?
I will say Auburn has exceeded my expectations.
I would agree.
Even with that Oklahoma loss, they've exceeded my expectations, and they're a legit team. Meanwhile, A&M at home, the 12th man, that's going to be hard to overcome for any team, any SEC team for that matter. Give me A&M. I think they're just more talented overall as well. So give me A&M.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one as well, especially with their win over Notre Dame. I think that just kind of gives them the edge in this matchup here.
While Auburn has exceeded my expectations, Texas A&M has just looked really good. I really like what Mike Elko is doing down there in Texas. I'm going to go with the Aggies. Moving on. Game of the week, presumably. Big Ten undefeated teams clash. Oregon goes to Penn State. This is a doozy. Who do we have?
Me personally, without diving into it too much, you just look at both teams and you think, well, it's got to be Oregon, especially with the resumes so far. Penn State is undefeated, but they haven't played anyone as of yet. Oregon, I don't want to say Oklahoma State, because they're really bad, right? Oklahoma State's just bad. But Oregon put up 69 points on them, right?
And Oregon State. They played Oregon State this past weekend. So
rivalry game too. So I think Oregon walks into a crowd of 100,000 plus and gets a dub.
Give me the Ducks. Enough said.
You're just a Penn State hater.
I am.
While Oregon has so far and away exceeded what I thought they would do to open the year, and Dante Moore looks so much better than what I thought he would, that Penn State crowd is a beast to deal with. And all three of us can say we've experienced it in person in a sold-out Beaver Stadium. And I don't know if I like Oregon and more specifically Dante Moore's chances to go in there and run the offense, how he has run the offense up to this point with that crowd against this Penn State defense. Now, while Penn State has not looked as good as their usual self, they're still Penn State. I like Penn State in this matchup. This is one of those, again, I think my head says Oregon, but my gut says Penn State simply because of the defense and how tough it is to play at the Nittany Lions homes. And so
when we were there, it was basically a whiteout game. It wasn't, but it basically was.
Yeah.
And Garrett Green, we only lost by what, like 11 or something? Like
you don't need to revisit.
But Garrett Green can operate. So I wouldn't put it past Oregon.
Garrett's got that dog in him, okay? I don't know if Dante Moore's got that dog in him on Garrett Green. I'm going to get cooked for saying that, by the way, because Dante Moore clears Garrett so far. I'm going to Penn State. Alabama goes to Georgia, a game that has become a rivalry that is not a rivalry. It just seems like Alabama always has Georgia's number. The clear better team this year is Georgia. This, like Oregon Penn State, is a doozy. Who do we have?
Is this at home for Bama?
It is at home for Georgia.
At home for Georgia. Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. If it's at home for Georgia, I would say the dog's got that dog in them, and Georgia's going to win this game. Bama, I think they haven't been bad. Florida State is just a really good team. We figured that out so far. And in their other games, Bama's look solid, but I just do not think that Bama can match up with Georgia. So, give me Georgia.
I think this is going to be a pretty close game. I think Georgia, like you said, is the quote-unquote better team here. Alabama's quarterback, Ty Simpson, has looked pretty solid so far this season. And they always just seem to find a way against Georgia. And like you just said on the last pick, my brain says Georgia, but I think I'm going to go with Alabama.
If you asked me preseason, I was going with Alabama simply because just the spot that Alabama holds against Georgia seems like Georgia can never get over that Alabama hump. No matter how good Georgia is, they always have in the back of their mind that Alabama is better. Oh, this is such a tough pick because I want to go Alabama, but I just Georgia is up to this point seems like the better team. I think Georgia has the best win in the country on the road against Tennessee in overtime. They found a way to put 44 points on the board, I believe. While I think Alabama can keep it close, the crowd, Georgia's offense, Georgia's defense, Kirby Smart is going to outsmart the Crimson Tide and find a way to beat their what seems to be arch nemesis in the ACC of Alabama. So I will go Georgia.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Georgia has the longest active home win streak.
That is correct. And Washington's is up there as well, along with Ohio State's win streak on the road against unranked teams. I don't remember the numbers completely, but a lot of streaks are on the line.
We know the Mountaineers ain't on that list.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about it. Washington's home winning streak, Ohio State's road winning streak against unranked teams, and Georgia's home winning streak are all on the line. Who will prevail? That brings us to everybody's favorite matchup of the week. Of course, the team with no offense in West Virginia versus the team that has some offense and a really good defense, the Utah Utes. Hall of Fame weekend, wearing the fancy uniforms. Keys to the game. Who do you have, Ian?
All right, so I'll give my key to the game. I'll pick who wins, and I'll pick score prediction. So my key to the game, as most people probably see it as their key to the game as well, or one of their keys to the game, is the run game. Now, Ty Edwards is going to play a huge part in this game, whether he can play or not. I think if he does, you can stand a way better chance of winning. But if he doesn't, like I said earlier, you got to experiment, figure out ways to get Clay Ash the ball in better situations, see if the offensive line has improved at all. Those are all going to weigh in to this game, and I think the running game is where you got to look on offense. Now, that being said, I pick Utah to win this game. However, the Mountaineers cover. My score prediction is 24-13. They barely cover, but they cover.
That would be something that happens because of Vegas's odds.
Oh, man. I think this is going to be a slugfest defensively.
Matt thinks that the Neers are going to win. The Ears, not the Neers. Excuse me. That's
my key to the game is also related to the run game, but it's going to be on the defensive side. I think we need to contain their quarterback. Dampier is very solid all around, possibly going to still be dealing with this injury. But if we can contain him and don't let him run all over us, we cut their running in half, essentially. And if he's locked down in the pocket, our secondary can get to work messing with the passing game. So I think that's going to be really important. Again, they're a high-power offense. Before they got to Tech, they were dropping 31 points at minimum on everybody else. Hopefully that doesn't happen to us. But that's up to our defense to contain. Magic can happen in Morgantown.
Roll ears.
Score prediction is 27-24 Mountaineers.
Matt will never pick against the Mountaineers.
We need that type of energy, though. I like it.
Key to the game, I have two, one of which is related to Ian's, and that is the run game, and more specifically Henderson's run game, or whoever the quarterback is. If it is Henderson and he can run all game like he did the one drive he got against Kansas, I like our chances to keep it close, because at least you start flipping the field, which is something that we've talked a lot about, which is where you start with the ball. It seems like every game we're getting it inside the 20. We've got 80 yards to go, sometimes 90, while we're giving the ball to the deep other side around midfield. And so can Henderson, more specifically, not even the running backs, can Henderson continue on the ground like he has showed us so far? Second key to the game is something I've already mentioned to an extent, and that is the turnover battle. Can West Virginia take care of the ball first and foremost? Because if you can't take care of the ball, you can't win the game. More importantly, can you force Utah's offense to give you the ball maybe two or three times? Like, you need turnovers to win this game, in my opinion. And like I said earlier, one of them needs to go to the house. That's just my opinion. One of them needs to go to the house to win this game. That brings me to the score prediction. We have forced a lot of turnovers through 4 games. I wouldn't say a lot, but a good amount through 4 games. Like I said, we're top 30 in the nation in forced turnovers. Sooner or later, one of them does have to go to the house. I am confident in Henderson's legs. One of the turnovers is going to the house. Mountaineers win 20-17.
There you go. There you go.
He's joining the team.
I shocked you with that one, didn't I? Listen,
You did.
Yeah.
You got me.
Utah is a good team. Utah is going to be, by the end of the season, in the top 5 in the Big 12. But magic, like you said, magic happens in Morgantown. And if there's supposed to be rain, all I can hope for is a rain delay, and we get the lights on nighttime in Morgantown. The Mountaineers find a way with Henderson leading the helm. Give me the Mountaineers 20-17.
That's
like
what I
it.
like to hear.
I like it. And our fan base is not to be underestimated. I get the whole deal with the student section, and it may not be good if it's raining, but the paying fans that come and watch these games will stay there through any weather, and they will cheer on the team no matter the score. They might boo, right? But they're going to cheer. So do not underestimate the crowd in this game either.
It's going to be a fun one. Send it home, Ian.
Yep, Tyler, you'll be there. I'll be there. So it should be a fun one. That is going to do it for this episode of the Cold Country Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the video. It does a lot for us with the algorithm, and comment what you think about our takes, and leave your own takes down there as well. Follow our Instagram, follow our X. Again, don't forget about our Spotify. So with all that being said, from me, from Tyler, and from Matt, we will see you on the next episode.
Goodbye, America.